evening and welcome to the new episode of Better Thyself. Who doesn't want to be successful? Everybody wants to be successful. But what is success? That's a crucial question, and most of the people think the way normally people have been taught to think, in a very hackneyed manner. A person who studied at Harvard thinks that he is smarter and more successful than a person who attended a state university. A father who stays at home with his kids is assumed to be contributing less to society than a man who works in a Fortune 500 company. A woman with 500 Instagram followers thinks she is more successful than a woman with 2 million. It's ridiculous. You have to redefine success. If not redefine, you have to rethink your definition of success. And that's why I have been an advocate in my provocative book, The Technology of Being Human. You see, we are not human beings. We are automated machines in the shape of human beings. Now, this book is a compendium of what really is success. But okay, today in this episode, we will talk that is the notion of success a merely elitist one? It's not. When people succeed, they believe their lives to be meaningful and they are very happy. And when they fail and they struggle, they think that the value of the life is of no good. Light has gone out of their life and the people fall into despair, convinced that they are worthless. They are not. So, it's not successful being able to achieve your targets, as I talked last time. What is really successful is being a good, wise, generous human beings. Cultivating these qualities brings people a deep and cleansing sense of fulfillment, which in turn helps them face setbacks. As a matter of fact, it's really great if you can help others. You see, there was a great psychologist, Erickson, and he says that to lead a meaningful life, human life must master a certain value and a certain sensitivity, a certain skill at each age of development. You cannot think that what a child does successfully would compensate you as an adult. The criteria to gauge your own success, and especially of your children, has to be a deep sense of fulfillment, enduring sense, which never comes to an end. It helps you face setbacks with resilience and ultimately meet death with peace. Now, coming back to the stages of success, in adolescence, creating a certain identity is a key developmental change. And if you can develop as an adolescent an identity of your own, you are successful. In young adulthood, the aim is to forge intimate bonds with the others. Bonding is important. But when you are an adult, it is developing generativity. Now, generativity is a new term that we have coined. It is, in fact, cultivating the next generation of helping others to accomplish their goals and reach their potential. Now, just now, one of my listeners, my friend, Marlisa mentioned That success is helping others, yes. But it's not only helping others, it's making them develop the capability of generative activity. The generative activity means cultivate in the coming generations the sense of helping others. In other words, you are a successful adult when you outgrow the mature and natural selfishness of your childhood and youth. Let's be very clear. Childhood and youth are a period of selfishness, and they should be, because that's the time of growing up and bonding. But if you remain selfish, then you have not really grown up. The time of childhood, the time of adulthood, the time of youth, they're different. So in youth, you realize that life is no longer charting your own course. And as you grow older, you realize the reality that your own course is just a minuscule part of working. The real thing is helping others. Whether, the help can be various ways. It can be raising your children capably. It can be mentoring others. Or it is creating something new and creative. The generative people from generative activity. The generative people perceive themselves as a part of the larger tapestry and seek to preserve it. And there's no need to crow about it. The legacy that these people leave behind gives their life a meaning. And that is important. You see, just wanting your children thinking about the success of winning or losing is wrong. Pursue wholeness. Both winning and losing are a part of life. And once they're a part of life, you do not have to think in that. Now, what happens if you are not generative and you do not indulge in generative activity? What's the opposite of that? It is stagnation. And the sense of stagnation gives your life a feeling of nihilism, a feeling of meaningless. You feel useless. You feel unneeded, unwanted. To thrive and be successful, people need to feel that they have a role to play in the communities and in the skin of the game of life. Life is a game. You have to enter under the skin of the game. Now imagine people in the 70s and the 60s were more successful, though they were economically not that well off. Each one of them had an experience. And as a matter of fact, the more adversity is there, the more possibility of your being generative is there. You are facing odds. And those odds bring out the best in you. But then, what is it? Unemployment should not be taken as an economic issue. It is an existential issue. The rate of the unemployment, if it makes you feel despondent, then you are not a success. But if it spurs you to work harder and achieve your goal, then you are successful. Whether you reach it or not, again, let's be very clear. The intent to pursue is more important than work is not the only way to be useful to the others. Can you believe that you can be useful to others without working in a specific manner? So, in the middle of life, one often feels very unhappy. That's why the middle life crisis is important. You think that what you have achieved is not appropriate. You do not have any goals following worthwhile. And being in a lab and being in a boat, you are in a boat in a river and you don't know the bank where to go. You see, and that happens when there is something missing in your inner life. So, try to find a meaning in that inner life. And that is not only by being selfish, that is by being helpful to the others. You see, we may not be hungry for recognition. We may not even want to reach the apex of our career, which we should. But we have to lead a meaningful life. So, to be successful is essentially finding a meaning in life. And meaning in life has over 20 components. Money or economic development is just one of them. Social recognition is the other. The cultivation of the younger generation is the third one. And so on and so forth. Today we are depending on the concept of empathy, not sympathy again. If you remember, in one of the episodes I talked about empathy and sympathy. If you have empathy, then you are successful. Because sympathy breeds drones. Empathy builds up human beings. So the sign of success of a human being is able to have empathy with the others, especially with the coming generations. You see, have you ever noticed this so-called talk of the generation gap? There's always a generation gap between the father and the son, right? But the moment it's a matter of grandfather and grandson, the generation gap just evaporates. Why? It is because the grandfather has more capability as a mentor and as a companion who leads, who makes the grandchild inculcate those habits which lead him to success. This imparting of habits is the real success. You see, I remember my son was awarded the President's Award for being the best executive in his company. He was in Suncor at that time. So this was a very prestigious award for him in his organization. So I was called to give a talk at that time. And I said, there was a time when my son was known as my son. People introduced him as son of Dr. Lamba. It would give me some pleasure, or rather a lot of pleasure. But today, I'm being introduced as father of Amrik Lamba. My identity has changed. As father of my son, I derive my recognition through that. And that is my success. I have been able to mentor my child so that I derive my identity from him. You see, we more often are so cloistered that we do not want our identity to be derived from the success of others. A teacher derives his identity from the success of his students. A mother, a father derive their identity when the children surpass them. So, to be really successful, you have to ensure that you impart them capability. You have certain empathy. And as I said earlier, to be worthwhile, it's important that you're not chartering your own course. Now, let's be very clear. It is enabling others to be more successful. That sense of being an enabler would be the real success. Whether you do it today or tomorrow. And if you don't become an enabler, then you are not successful. You might become a multi-millionaire. How many rich people are there? You might have yachts and aeroplanes of your own. But you are not a successful man. You would always find a feeling of emptiness in your mind. you would always feel that your life has not been worthwhile. You would always have a feeling that there could have been something more. And therein lies the rub. That's what it is. So this redefining success is extremely important, because once you have understood this definition of success, your life would have a meaning. And you would not be a useless part of this cosmos, but become an enabler and a promoter of a real Homo sapien, the human being. Thank you.